exotic of the short hairs, Siamese, through to things like the good old British, works its way along these scent sticks. You'll notice at some, it will seem to go into a curious trance with its mouth slightly agape and focusing inwardly somewhere. What it's doing is tasting scent. It's got an organ just above the roof of its mouth which it can draw the air into, and it's not tasting as we mean taste, and it's not smelling. It's able to do a curious combination of both, and by that it can interpret all sorts of information about the state of the other cats that have been wandering round, and so can really read its territory. What that cat has just done here is try to assert its right to be there. It's a neutered tom, and it's not resident. It's the cat from next door, and it knows it's not on its own patch. And so under the stress of being here, it's trying to spray. It can't give a proper spray because it hasn't got the levels of sex hormones to make that strong aroma, but it's going through all the positions. Its tail is up, it's juddering away, and it's far more like normal urination from the volume that's coming through, but nonetheless, from the cat's point of view, because of the pressure, it's really trying to say, I've got a right to be here. Back in its own patch, it won't do that, but here, it certainly is. However big or small your garden is, the chances are that your cat will not use all of it. And yet, in his movements around, scent will be extremely important, but not always in the most obvious ways. For example, if Sylvester did not live here, the chances are that the neighbouring cats on either side would use this garden as a communal latrine, because they tend to scent mark by digging holes and leaving their dung as a means of declaring the edges of their territory. And if you've got a dispute between a couple of toms, then they may not even bury their droppings, their feces. They may leave them prominently sighted. And so in that sense, scent becomes a very important part of what's going on. But there are other things as well. Sylvester spends a lot of time snoozing. He's quite an elderly cat. But cats of all ages do exactly the same thing, because unlike a dog, in hot weather, they can't just run around and then flop down, panting away. Their means of controlling their temperature is to not get too hot in the first place. So fine, they'll have warming spots where they can bask in the sun, but then they'll move to a shady spot. And this moving around means that they have very definite places that they go to, and each of these gains the scent of their fur, so other cats again know they're around. But there's also an even more curious way that the cat's scent gets around, because the fur means that the cat can't sweat through its skin. It wouldn't function very well like that. How the cat loses some of its heat and some of its scent as a result is through its paws. They are slightly sweaty and therefore slightly smelly. So when your cat goes around and claws on a fence and marks it and leaves a spot where another cat can come along and check, it also leaves a residual scent as well. So your cat may be using a tree, but it may also be going along the top of a fence and clawing away. Or outside your house, you may have straw matting. The cat may use that. All sorts of places in and around your house, the cat will be leaving scent. home and it's settling down with you, and the first thing that happens is you're squirting stuff in its ears, and then the next time it meets you, you're squirting stuff in its ears. And far from this wonderful bond being developed between yourself and your cat, all that really seems to be going on is that, well, the cat thinks you're not a very nice person at all. So it doesn't really help matters from the beginning. So if you can avoid that, then it's better to do so. As well, when you're looking at the animal, look at the coat. But the coat, of course, on all of these lovely chinchillas here is stunning. There's no sign, of course, here of any parasites. There's no sign of any fleas. So I think from our general look at you, you're looking quite good. Looking at the mouth as well, check there's no redness. But really, with a cat as healthy as this, how can you go wrong? Come into your new home. Yes. Here we are. Meet Eve. This is your new owner. There you are, Eve. Your new kitten. When you get your cat or kitten back home, you must, of course, have already gone out and got the litter trays and all the proper preparations. You shouldn't do that after you've got your cat or your kitten there. But Eve has gone the sensible route. She's wanting to have 2 cats in her household. And sure, you can introduce one when one is older and one is younger, but it's always just so much easier, if that's really what you want to do, to start off with them both as kittens. Because even if they're not litter mates, they'll believe they're litter mates, and they'll grow up, and it'll be a much more harmonious household for the rest of the life of them and yourself while you're together. But if you are introducing a cat who is an adult to an existing adult in a house, that of course is quite the other extreme. And you can have fisticuffs between the cats, because the resident cat is the resident cat. Its scent is everywhere, it knows it's in ownership, and if a new cat comes in, oh, shouldn't be there. So how can you get around that? Well, one way which works very well is have them meet without meeting. Keep your own cat out of an area for a while, allow the new cat in and around so it can leave its scent, and then take that cat away, and the resident cat comes in, sniffs around and realizes there's another cat there. If you keep doing this time after time, gradually the resident cat realizes that there is a cat there which has a right to be there. And if you monitor carefully what you're doing, and particularly when they first start to meet, do it on a gentle and careful way, then later on you will have far less trouble between the two, and things should settle down quite well. But certainly if you want to go for the easy route, the way Eve has gone is probably the simplest.
An additional way of introducing an adult cat into a home is to put it in a basket, preferably after allowing it and the resident cat to have alternately established their scents first. The role of the basket in keeping them near yet separate is particularly useful when introducing a dog and cat. They can gradually habituate to one another in safety. But the calmness of the owner is one of the single most important factors in a successful introduction.
Well, she's got very sharp claws, so don't corner her.
The resident animal will trust its owner, but you'll need to spend time developing a relationship with the new animal to allow it to relax in its new home, in your company, and in that of your existing pets. But don't forget to reassure your resident cat so that it does not feel too stressed or alienated by the intruder.
in a very playful bouncing and batting and patting. It's all larger than life. The movements are still very shaky as they walk. They're beginning to clamber onto things, as you saw the one come out here. And when they play with each other, it's all this sort of crash, bang, wallop. But again, just go on from a few more weeks from now. When they get to 7 weeks old and they become weaned, then everything suddenly will change from these really endearing little kittens now. The type of play they'll have then will be much more about pursuit. It'll be taking on things like prey. They'll be wanting to go around. So how they play with each other will be, in a way, how they play with prey, how they play with adult cats. It's the learning, getting ready for the adult life. But here, well, it's just cute. Kittens, as they go through their stages of development, go through what are known as sensitive periods. Come on, little one. You've finished your suckle now, haven't you? Yes. These ones are at about 4.5 weeks old, and at this time in their lives, they suddenly undergo quite a major transformation. Now, the mother cat, if she's got access to the outside world, will start to bring in prey. This is a mouse that one of the cats around here brought in last night. Are you interested in that? Are you interested in that? Not necessarily, because you're only just beginning to learn about it. This is the first time you'll have ever met something like this. You know, there's interest there. And what I'm doing is pretty much what the mother will do. She will act as a competing kitten. So rather than bring in and instruct, she will take something and try to take it away. And over the next few weeks, what will happen is that she will bring in progressively more lively prey until the prey isn't at all damaged. And by doing that, the kittens at the right stages will have learnt the appropriate responses. Now, this has an implication for us as well, because the kittens need to be able to know what is live and what is dead fairly early on. And the nest area is a safe haven that the mother sets aside. And the biology works on the principle that if the mother is there, then all is safe, and the kittens can be brought up safely there, so they trust whatever is there. If we handle kittens early enough, then they will trust us. I mean, this is such a strange system that even if by chance a rabbit or a rat has always lived in the nest area, then they will have always been accepted as litter mates. So if we want to be accepted ourselves as litter mates in our cats' lives, so they will be at ease with us for the rest of their lives, then it's important that we are there before this prey-catching stage, in the earlier time. And therefore that means that even when kittens are 2-3 weeks old, there ought to be somebody at a cattery who's handling them gently in the nest area. It seems like an intrusion, but by doing that, it means that the cats, for the rest of their lives, will always be happier with people. And that's important, because we forget we are a strange species to the cat.
In adult life, the cat's hunting ability comes to the fore. As a kitten, Leroy learnt about hunting, and now he's incredibly efficient. The worm that was caught by the early bird was grabbed by Leroy at the same split second that he caught the fledgling as it was being fed by its parent. Many cat lovers are upset when their cat brings home a bird, but the reality is that cats catch very few birds in comparison to their number of animals like mice. A game of nerve develops between predator and prey. We think that the cat is just playing with the prey instead of getting on and killing it. But the cat is trying to avoid being injured, as some prey have sharp teeth. So it allows it to try to escape, to see how subdued the prey is. The catch and recapture goes on. Leroy is suddenly displaced from his prey by Tabitha, but she was not trained in kittenhood to hunt, so does not really know what to do. The bird wisely remains frozen. As Tabitha has taken the bird, so we do when our cat brings one home. Yet cats still bring prey back to their patch, where they best know the terrain. In a feral group, or among garden cats, they stand to lose their prey to those other cats. But a great advantage is that learning doesn't completely stop at kittenhood. So although she's not as good as Leroy, Tabitha has learnt something about prey by Leroy's bringing prey back. So group skills and survival improves. But the policy of remaining stock still has worked for the young robin. From time to time, it sneaks a look, even when Leroy is back on the scene. It waits for its opportunity to escape. Flown to freedom, not an uncommon result, which is why it really is a two-sided, if macabre, game. But it's not all over. The cat, who was only an onlooker, carefully checks out the scenes of the action, reliving in its mind Leroy's hunt.
Territorial Matters tomorrow at the same time here on BBC Two, 1:55.